Greetings, wayward souls, it's the Game Pack Preacher, and I hope you're all doing well. Seems like everyone's on that Zelda fever recently. I'm glad you all are enjoying yourselves amidst building war machines and crucifying Kuroks and all that. I'm not much of a Zelda guy myself, but it's heartwarming to see so many people enjoying it. And the amount of creativity on display with Tears of the Kingdom's mechanics is all the more reason to enjoy it. If anything, it's kind of frightening. The stuff some of y'all are managing to build, be it for progression or even just screwing around, really makes you think how Nintendo managed to pull all this off. Which I guess sort of leads me to today's topic. You see, all this building has gotten myself, and a few others, thinking of a different game that focused on building things to solve various problems. Any guesses? I'll give you a hint. It's a Microsoft game. No, not that one. Christ's sake. Yeah, there we go. So yes, all the crazy contraptions people have been cobbling together in Zelda have gotten myself, and even others, thinking about the Baron Bird's last, and most unorthodox outing. Nuts and Bolts has been out for quite some time, and this game's had quite a history as far as public perception of it goes. But over the years, I think most people have lightened up towards the game, and with Zelda reminding everyone about this black sheep, some new questions are being posed. Did Nuts and Bolts walk so Tears could run? Were we perhaps too harsh on the game? Was Nuts and Bolts really a shining gem all this time? Well, as a Rareware fanboy and a video game critic on the internet, I can confidently say, it's a bit complicated, much like my relationship with this game, so let's talk about it some. So as I was saying, I have a complex relationship with Nuts and Bolts, and given recent sways and opinions, I think it'd be simpler for everyone if we just tackled each aspect one at a time. Starting things off, did this game walk so Tears of the Kingdom could run? Not really. No. This question I personally don't understand because comparing Nuts and Bolts to Tears of the Kingdom is sort of an apples and oranges kind of deal. Sure, you can create wacky vehicles in both games, but the purpose of those vehicles, as well as the types of games these are, couldn't be more different. One game is built around having vehicles, and the other game is more so about adventure and exploration, with the vehicles being a byproduct of the game's mechanics. Could Nuts and Bolts have influenced Tears' building mechanics? Maybe, but saying that it owes anything to Nuts and Bolts is kind of a stretch. Sorry, Zelda wins this one. Now, as to whether we were too harsh on Nuts and Bolts, yeah, I would say so. When that first teaser trailer came out for the game, us Banjo fans were excited to see the duo make their return, and then when the game came out, I'd say we were a little miffed to say the least.
And holy shit! We'll always love you! I can't believe you did this to me, goddammit! How could you do this to me?
Initial reception wasn't exactly the best, and a lot of prominent content creators at the time echoed that dissatisfaction, and that ultimately led to the masses rejecting the game, myself included. But honestly, after all these years and after multiple playthroughs, I don't think Nuts and Bolts is that bad. Dare I say, it's actually a pretty alright game, and I feel more people are starting to feel the same way. As much as I should feasibly hate this game, considering how it does sort of betray what Banjo was built on, I just can't bring myself to do it. The building mechanic is remarkably solid and can be pretty in-depth. As Zelda is confirming now, building your own solutions to problems presented to you is not only fun, but satisfying as well. If anything, I feel like Nuts and Bolts doesn't lean enough into what is essentially its selling point. The hubs are so lifeless and empty, and the game forces you to use these shitty pre-built vehicles more often than it really should. But I mean, I don't know. Building all these silly vehicles makes me feel... what am I looking for? Childlike wonder and amusement? Yeah, let's go with that. So I can't fault the game completely for that. However, does that make Nuts and Bolts a diamond in the rough? No. At least not to me. I may not hate this game like I used to, but I wouldn't exactly put it at the top of my recommendation list either. Like I've been saying, it's complicated between this game and me. Although this game does have merit, I do still ultimately view it as a bit of a betrayal of the franchise. I get it. Games have to change and innovate to avoid becoming stale. But if you change too much, you lose the core of what made your game special in the first place. And unfortunately, Nuts and Bolts does kind of warp the core of what made Banjo-Kazooie such a hit. When you replace tight, engaging platforming through vibrant lands with vehicle building and lifeless wastelands, people are gonna notice. It may kind of look like a Banjo game, it may have the wit of a Banjo game, but it sure as hell doesn't play like a Banjo game. And despite having its own merits, that fact is going to be in the back of your head, always nagging at you. So with all that being said, although Zelda has been shining a new light on Nuts and Bolts, saying that it owes even a part of its existence to that game is a bit of a stretch. But despite all that, it is nice seeing the black sheep of the Banjo franchise get some credit. It may have gotten a bad rap, even I would struggle to really consider it a Banjo game, even now, but it's far from a bad game, Banjo or otherwise. Maybe it warrants further discussion, but perhaps that's for another time. I'm sure you all have more Zelda to play. Go forth and have fun. Go crucify a Korok for me. Well, that should do it for another video. Hope you all enjoyed it as always. Like, comment, sub, all that good stuff, and I'll see y'all on the flip.